What happened to the Googan squad? Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the vlog. If you're new, my name is Steve Chapman. I saw a short, I wish I knew who did it, asking, do you remember what happened to the Googan squad? Where are the Googan squad team members that changed this industry? Were there anyone as big as those young men? And what happened to them? Now, just to give you a little bit of history, the Googan squad technically started somewhere around 2016 with a group of YouTube content creators that were trying to come together and build a brand, something that's very hard to do in the industry. And in 2018, they officially became a company and formed the Googan Baits. Their initial goal was to disrupt the fishing industry, to do things completely different than we've ever seen, and they accomplished it. They wanted to make fishing fun again. They did something that revolutionized the industry. You can like them or dislike them, but what the Googan squad and the Googan Baits young men did was they did something that we've never ever thought could be done. We had an old school mentality, and they brought us, or started to bring us, into this new YouTube world, this YouTube space, and they broke records. Now, their key founders were Rob Turkala, Lunkers TV, Justin Rackley, Lake Fork Guy, John B., Andrew Flair, and I believe Lojo. And they had other anglers like Alex Perrick and Michael, I can't say his last name, One Rod, One Reel, and then Norm, and many other anglers that they brought into the group, pushed their baits, did something we've never seen, and racked up the views. And while they racked up millions upon millions of views, the traditional angler didn't appreciate the approach of what they were doing. We didn't appreciate the business that they created. And it was completely different than anything we've ever seen. How they marketed their baits and themselves and their merch and everything, and how they got a younger crowd to really enjoy not only their videos, but enjoy their baits, and everything that they did was a transition in this industry. And Googan squad members were more influential than most professional bass fishermen. The professional bass fishermen that we love and that we follow. The Googan squad guys did it different, and they were unbelievably influential in this industry. And Catchco purchased their company. Catchco is part of the Mystery Tackle Box group. But there was always some issues that they continuously ran into. If it wasn't the baits that didn't seem to, you catch one in one bass and it was one and done. The quality of the product that they put out while it caught fish seemed more gimmicky and didn't have the resilience to be able to be fished more than after one bite. And that really affected traditional anglers and regular anglers and consumers who didn't like the quality of the product. But boy, did they sell a ton of product. And they introduced a lot of new pro staff. Pro staffs like Jacob Wheeler and Scott Martin, Dustin Cannell, Keith Pouchet, Fred Rubanis, and Chris Zaldane were all part of the Googan Baits squad. They're pro staff. And they caught a lot of grief because of how their lures were created and designed. The structural integrity of the plastics that they were using that helped people catch fish. They just, no offense, at one point in time, they just weren't good. And some of the baits worked and others flopped. Some were more designed to be gimmicky. And that only continued to fuel the dislike by traditional anglers and other anglers that were revolutionizing the community. So what happened? Where did they go? Ross from Catchco, and I'm going to read this, who was the CEO, explained that with their biggest push of their new line of baits from Googan and lots of surprise cash flow issues, that they were caught off guard. And as Catchco was scrambling for cash and trying to get the product in, and in 2019, Googan Baits landed one of their first major retailers. And remember, they got into Dick's Sporting Goods. And Dick's pushed them. They were doing everything right. They were making videos. They were selling baits. Everything was really exceptional for Googan Baits and the Googan Squad. And in 2019, they eclipsed $28 million in revenue. And then COVID hit in 2020. They had a $10 million investor that retracted his money. And many retailers started pausing their orders. And while you're looking ahead to try to buy things for the next year, and retailers are pausing their orders or sales aren't as well as they are, things don't work out as well as you want them to work out. And with lockdowns and everything else that was going on, the Googan Squad had to look outside to try to raise cash because you were having to spend money way in advance to get those products that would come in 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 months. And when we had the lockdowns, they were able to raise some additional money, but you'd spend that money hoping that in the future those products would be able to be brought into the country. And people outside of our community started to go fishing. And that year, they had $52 million in revenue. And then the investors started to come back. And in 2021, they had $70 million in sales. Being so reliant on China, and products taking 3, 4, 5, 6 months longer to get back into the country, and orders going from 3 to 4 months to 10 to 12 months. And because of import fees and increasing costs, sometimes 10 times more than what they had at just a couple years ago to make the same product. And with materials going up sometimes 20 times more than it was. Well, unfortunately, the writing was on the wall. And when you're paying the Googan kids, and I say that nicely, when you're paying the Googan guys and you have all these pros and you have all this marketing to make new products, and you have a reputation in the industry of not having the best quality of stuff, well, at some point it all starts to catch up to you. And they did things that were completely different. Their advertising and videos, and they started a trend that's still happening in the industry. It's be controversial and say what's on your mind, and don't give a crap about what or the consequences that could happen. And in 2021, things started to slow down. But why? Well, consumer behavior patterns changed because things opened up and fishing wasn't as popular. And there were online changes with social media on how to promote, how to get the word out. And other companies started to use the same format that the Googan Squad did and Googan Baits did. And we had people that weren't getting our government checks. They weren't getting the government checks anymore. And the Googan Squad at that point decided that they were going to sell their private equity. And the lack of content made growth stall. And when that happened, and there weren't the videos being made, and there weren't the new products, and the backlash that came from what was going on, retailers started canceling orders. And in 2023, the Googan Squad had to lay off 60% of the people that worked for them. And these young men did something that was unbelievable. To be honest, I remember when they were at their first iCast, and they made a online post during one of the iCasts on the water. And I've never seen more young men come out and meet those guys. And I think I've only met 1 or 2 of them in all the time, but they were always they weren't really approachable, but they were always very polite and nice. And they did something that they probably will never get enough credit for. They brought a lot of young anglers into the space, into this community. Like it or dislike it. I'm not a fan of their baits, but I will be honest. They brought in a crowd of young, youthful anglers that watched YouTubes, that wanted social media to be an importance and an influence. And they took that, bottled it up, made some baits, and made a hell of a lot of money. And we're still seeing a lot of the younger, youthful anglers that are in the industry and in the community now are because of what the Googan Squad did. They looked up to those young men. They wanted to be them. They started YouTube channels. They started fishing. And those anglers that are still fishing and now trying to do YouTube and content, social media, are the future of this industry. They're the future buyers of the products that people are selling. And while there's still some pro staff on Googan Baits, They're not, and they're trying to get back to where they are. The thing that they had was, the beauty that they had was that those young men worked their tails off, made videos constantly, got hundreds and thousands and millions of views on every video. And it was something we've never seen before. And I don't know if we'll ever see it again, because the space is now crowded with a lot of people. And a lot of people have used what Googan Bates and Googan Squad did and looked at it, dissected it, and now use that as the playbook of what they're going to do for their lures, or their pro staff, or the young anglers that are fishing. And while you might like them or dislike them, they really did change the world. But where are they? That was the initial question. Well, there's a few of them making some content now. Now, the Googan Bates is still working as much as possible. And the Googan Squad is kind of separated. It's not what it used to be. It doesn't have the prestige that it once had. And I hope in the future they're able to continue making baits for the people that they love, and the people that love their baits. But we'll never probably see something like Googan did, because it was unbelievable. But what did you think of Googan? Did you like the squad? Did you like the baits? Comment below and tell me what you think. Thanks to all the new subscribers and members and everyone who's interactive on the channel. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for an amazing holiday and everyone checking in. I just can't say thank you enough. But if you're not a subscriber, do me a favor. Click that like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you know when the next video drops. And if you have that hype button, do me a favor. Hit the hype. It really does help the channel. Hope you like the new hat, new merch on the channel. So if you want to pick some up, do it. And I appreciate it. And remember, take a kid fishing, hate less, fish more, and get your fish on.